Sup y'all, it's me, it's your boy Asmongold, and today I want to give you guys my summary of the recent Professions Q&A that happened yesterday between Laura, who's one of the community managers, and Paul Kubit, who's one of the senior game designers for World of Warcraft. Now, as far as I know, this is Paul Kubit's first time that he ever has done any of these Q&A or interview things, and I certainly hope it's not his last. I really like the way it came across. I like the way he answered questions humbly, but also directly. I like the way kind of like whenever people send in questions with a suggestion, he said thank you, and it's just like those little things, and it just made me feel good. Okay, so I do definitely hope that we can see some more interviews with him. And also, I want to say something else, is that I'm really glad that Blizzard, and I really appreciate that Blizzard has been doing these interviews and these Q&A sessions every week. This week was just about Professions. Next week is going to be about PvP, and so that's going to be pretty exciting. But I do really appreciate that as a player, and it's like even whenever I don't hear things that I want to hear, like with last week with Ian as a Costas, I'm still glad to be hearing them. I really like these kind of like fireside chat, more informal type Q&A sessions that they're doing, and I really hope they continue them throughout the expansion, but we'll see what's going to happen. So anyway, guys, let's get into it. And I really hope that you guys like hearing about Blood of Sargeras, because were a lot of questions about Blood of Sargeras. Like 1/3 of the entire interview was about Blood of Sargeras. So let's get into it. Blood of Sargeras is a BOP crafting material in Legion, and you can get it from basically any source in the game. Now, originally last week, Ian Zazkostas said that he kind of alluded to the fact that gathering would be the primary way of getting these Bloods of Sargeras. Paul Kubit came in today and he said there are going to be a lot of other ways of getting Bloods of Sargeras besides gathering, but gathering will be a way to get even more. So as an example, world quests reward them, killing dungeon bosses reward them, crafting certain items reward them, disenchanting rewards them now. So there's a lot of different ways. They want to kind of use Bloods of Sargeras as a way of just like kind of a general measure of how much you're playing Legion content. So imagine like this is kind of it's a very different paradigm, but it's kind of the same thing. Imagine if all you did was farm in Tanam Jungle, okay, and the amount of Apexis crystals you'd get would kind of correlate to how much farming you've done. Well, in a different kind of, I guess like in a different vein or a different element, a different paradigm, whatever you want to call it, Bloods of Sargeras function the same way. Basically, any sort of gameplay you're going to be doing will probably reward you with Blood of Sargeras. Now, one of the very contentious things about Blood of Sargeras is that they're BOP. So there was a lot of questions as to whether they would make Blood of Sargeras BOA, so you can trade them between characters. So let's say you have a character with 2 crafting professions and a character with 2 gathering professions. You can get on the character with 2 gathering professions and go around and get the Blood of Sargeras and then trade it to your main. Now, the reason they're not going to be doing that, by the way, is because hypothetically, there are going to be world quests out in Legion and different areas that could hypothetically award 5 Blood of Sargeras. And if you have 10 characters that could go out and do that same world quest, you could effectively funnel, let's say 50, or if you have 12, you have every single character at max level, you could effectively funnel 50 or 60, whatever you want to say, all of those Bloods of Sargeras down into one character to, I guess, like fast track that character's crafting. And that's not really something that they want to go ahead and do, because the crafting, not only are you going to be crafting gear just to actually get the gear, but you can craft other pieces of gear, because the gear that you're getting, the gear that you craft in Legion, now it does roll with random stats, but the item level is pretty much predetermined, and I don't know if it's going to be Warforged or not, but the different levels that you have, because each item that you craft has different levels, different stars, and there's like 3 stars right now. So if you have 3 stars with that with creating that item, or actually gathering that type of material, you can have 3 stars with like gathering laystone ore, which is one of the new ores. So every single time that you mine a laystone ore a deposit, you're going to be able to get even more laystone ore out of that deposit. So I think that's a really good way to kind of, I guess, like level up what you're doing, and it adds a little bit more progression to Professions. So anyway, whenever you make one of those pieces of gear and it doesn't come out with the right stats that you want, you cannot re-roll that piece of gear. In Warlords of Draenor right now, and by the way, in Warlords of Draenor right now, you can only equip 3 pieces of crafted gear. In Legion, that's going away. You can equip as many pieces of crafted gear as you want, but a lot of them are going to be BOP once you use Obliterum on them, which is what you use, and you can get Obliterum through 2 ways. The first way is you just buy it with Bloods of Sargeras, and the second way is that that you can kind of salvage or disenchant. I think salvage is a better word. Salvage crafting, like crafted items that you make that don't have the right stats that you want. So like, let's say you're trying to make a plate chess piece and it rolls haste versatility, so it's a piece of shit, right? But instead of just getting mad and vendoring it because nobody wants it, you can go ahead and salvage it, and then you get a piece of obliterum. Now, obliterum right now increases your crafted profession, your profession crafted gear by 5 item levels, and it goes all the way up to 850 item level. And so that means that an 850 piece of gear, for just kind of a way to compare, is better than baseline mythic gear, and it's on the same level as Nighthold normal mode gear, which is the first raid tier. So very, very good. So that gives crafters a way to actually, I guess, like make their own progression towards raiding or towards just better gear in general without actually having to step a foot in the raid. And I think that's a very, very good thing, because it gives people alternate paths of progression, because maybe they might not want to do dungeons, but they still want to be able to progress their character. Professions are going to be a much stronger source and a much stronger path of doing that in Legion than they are now. So you're going to be able to use Obliterum on your gear to upgrade your gear all the way up to 850. And Obliterum, my understanding is that because Bloods of Sargeras are BOP, and they want this to be character specific progression that you can't buy, because they don't want somebody to be able to just like buy 30 tokens and then like sell them all and then have like 5 million gold and then buy a bunch of 850 gear, right? So they don't want that to happen. I'm assuming that Obliterum, whenever you use a piece of Obliterum on a piece of gear to increase its item level, it will bind that piece of gear to your character, and I think that's what they should do, and that's what I'm assuming they will do, because they said that that's kind of the way it's going to work. Now, there are a lot of other things that they talked about besides Blood of Sargeras, you guys can fucking believe it. A lot of the other things are that, as if I did not say before, the item level for the crafted gear will be fixed, and I think there might be a Warforged component to it, and somebody submitted an idea that maybe the higher stars, the more I guess, like, what would you really call it? Experience you have with crafting a certain piece of gear. Once you have 3 stars, it would have a higher chance to Warforge. And Paul said that was a pretty good idea. Thanks for the suggestion, etc. And so we might see that happening, but of course that's not really what will or won't happen. It's just a maybe at this point. But also on top of that, the item will be fixed besides the Warforge possibility. So it's not going to be like Titan forging or anything like that. So I think that's also a very good thing. Now, there are some items that you craft that do have deterministic stats and deterministic attributes. And what I mean by deterministic, by the way, that's what the word they're using, I mean guaranteed. So if you make a jewel crafting ring, for example, it always has a socket. Okay, so it has random stats, but it always has a socket on it. If you play Diablo 3, it's a Hellfire ring. Very, very simple. So I think that's obviously a very good thing, because it allows people to kind of take some of the RNG out of the process. And I do really like the way, now I've said a lot of times before, I don't like RNG, but I do like the way that they're doing RNG with crafting. And the reason for that is because even if you get something that you don't want, you still get something, you still are able to work towards your end goal, which is having, because if you get something you don't want, you just salvage it into Obliterum, and then whenever you do get what you do want, you're able to upgrade it even more. And so obviously this is a very, very good thing. And so you can offset your RNG. And as long as I'm able to offset my RNG and kind of work around it, I have absolutely no problem with it. Now, a number of other things they talked about, let me go ahead and just scroll down here so I don't forget anything, is that there will be no weapon enchants in Legion. There's not going to be any weapon enchants at all. I'm assuming DKs still get to keep their weapon enchant because that's a fixed variable, but the reason that there aren't going to be any weapon enchants is because you're going to be using the same weapon for the entire duration of the expansion, so it would seem kind of weird to just buy the enchant just once, right? But they did that with glyphs, so I mean, you never know, but right now there are going to be no weapon enchants. I would think it would be kind of cool if they added different weapon enchants that kind of did a little bit more cosmetic things, but also gave a small combat modifier, but I can kind of assume that that's probably not going to happen. It's probably actually not a good idea. It just sounds good in my head right now. Now, also, somebody submitted a suggestion that they made a shared reagent bank, because right now, like let's say you have one character that gathers stuff and then one character that crafts it, so obviously, you don't really want to have to go back and forth, so something very similar to the Diablo 3 stash, And Paul said that's a possibility, but he didn't really say if it's going to happen or not. Now, there was also an achievement, because there were a lot of questions about the fishing artifact. And it turns out that the achievement that you had to fish up all of the coins from the new fountain in Dalaran is not going to be required for the fishing artifact. That is just for fun. Okay, and I know, I saw Paul, I guess he translated something from Russian, so maybe he just used the wrong word here, and instead of fun, he actually meant to say necrotic, or sorry, not necrotic, well, if you do it long enough, but a neurotic obsession. And that's kind of the way that I look at fishing up every single coin. And speaking of neurotic obsession, archaeology. So there are some questions about archaeology. Is there going to be more or less different types of solves? Now, in Warriors of Draenor, I think there are 17 different types of artifacts that you can solve for each race. In Legion, there's only going to be about 5, so it's going to make it a lot easier for people who are trying to get all of the pristine artifacts. It's going to be easier for them to get all of those done, and so that lessens the the neurotic obsession part. But there's also going to be no catch-up mechanisms for fishing, and there's also going to be no catch-up mechanisms for archaeology. And the reason for that is because the I guess the skill points that you get in those are mostly just cosmetic. And I think there already is kind of a catch-up mechanism with fishing, with like the books, but then those are harder to get. So anyway, I'm not really sure, but that's pretty much what's going on. And the fishing artifact, they said it might not even be in the game, and it might be in the game. I don't really know, but I'm pretty sure they're going to do a fishing artifact. I really hope they do. A model was data mined, so I do hope they add it into the game. Now, also, professions are not just going to be shipped on live at 7.0, and there's going to be nothing else that you're going to see from them for the rest of the expansion. Professions will be updated throughout the expansion in the same way that raids and classes will be. So I do really, really like that. As I've said many times before, professions, I've always felt, have been one of the best forms of solo player progression, and I'm really glad that Blizzard is bringing that back with Legion. Now, there are going to be some unique benefits that you get through professions, but none of those unique benefits will be combat benefits, so it's not going to be like back in Mists of Pandaria, if you had like blacksmithing or something like that, you got extra sockets. There's going to be nothing from a profession that, like, you have to have engineering, and if you have engineering, you get like an extra 100 strength or 1,000 strength or anything like that. So all of the combat benefits that you get are going to be more or less negligible. Now, I always, whenever they say something like that, it's all, if there are going to be benefits that you can use in combat, there are always going to be the ones that are, I guess, like more or less useful. So I'm always kind of curious to see if that's actually going to happen. Engineering has always been very, very useful in raiding, even whenever it didn't give you a damage increase. So we're going to have to see what's going to happen there. But personally, I don't really know if it's going to happen one way or another. Now, gathering professions, they said they've been thinking about this for a while, and it always gets kind of brought to the table every single time they do any sort of a new expansion or anything. Gathering professions might at some point, but not in Legion, all become secondary professions. And there also might be new secondary professions similar to how logging was with the garrison and the lumber mill. I used to fucking love cutting down trees, man. Like, that was one of my favorite things to do. So if they make that an entire profession, fuck blacksmithing, man. I'm cutting down trees. Like, I would love that. But they made that a secondary profession. That would be even better. So you can pick your secondary professions and then also have your main profession at the same time to kind of make professions more of a bigger part of the game. Now, also, if I didn't say before, I've probably should have said that with the Bloods of Sargeras, but there's one more thing with the Blood of Sargeras that I didn't mention, is that if you are not a crafter and you get Bloods of Sargeras, you're still going to be able to use them in one way or another. There's probably going to be some sort of a vendor that you can use to spend the Bloods of Sargeras on maybe other crafting materials or some sort of other item that you can sell. Very similar to how Spirits of Harmony were in Mists of Pandaria and how Frozen Orbs were in Wrath of the Lich King. Very, very good stuff. Also, they're really trying to bring back, I guess, like the feel of being like a blacksmith, the feel feel of being a tailor. And then also, by the way, they're not adding any bigger bags that tailors can make in Legion. I think you can get those in other ways, but they're not doing that to try and like find other ways for tailoring to kind of be useful besides just making bigger bags. But they're trying to bring back that feel, and so there's going to be some items that you have to go to a certain anvil to craft. There are going to be certain items that you need to get certain items to craft, and I always thought that was really fucking cool. You know, like whenever you made the Lionheart helm in vanilla, and you needed like what do you need, like raptor claws or something like that? It's like, you don't need raptor claws to make a helm. Like, that's stupid. But there's something about it that makes it special. It makes you like you're putting together this actual helmet and you feel like a blacksmith. You know, it's like, you know, there's something, it's like you craft a chest piece in 2 seconds. The craft time is 2 seconds. No, back in Burning Crusade, I would stand on top of the Great Anvil on Ironforge and I would craft like Storm Herald. Yeah, it's really nice. I would craft Storm Herald, and that shit would take like 20 seconds to craft. And the whole time I'd be sitting there, I'd be like, yeah, I fucking did it. I got everything together, and here I am making the best weapon in the game. And I'm going to stun people until they're dead. And it was amazing, okay? And I'm really glad they're going to be doing that again. And I just, you know, that's a suggestion right there. Make the crafting times longer. You know, make it like 20 seconds if you're making something really, really good. Like, it makes you feel like you're making something big, you know, whenever it takes longer. I don't know. Like, am I stupid? Probably, but I think it's cool. Anyway, a lot of the profession patterns that have been removed from the game, and they're also doing that. Blacksmithing is just an example I use because that's what I know about, but they're doing that with all the professions. A lot of the profession patterns that have been removed from the game that have unique appearances, so like a lot of the Icebane sets from from Nax 40 might make it back into the game through the Black Money Action House, and so I'm really, really glad to hear that, and it could also make it back into the game through the Dark Moon Fair, just to kind of get those appearances back in the game. Not everything is going to make it back, but things that have unique appearances, there's a good possibility that it will, but it might not be everything that has a unique appearance, just to kind of give some sort of exclusivity to those people who did achieve that item or that pattern whenever it was current. Now, that's pretty much it. They did also say that professions will be able to maybe make transmog gear, like transmog only gear. I think that would be pretty cool. You know, if they made like, for example, you know, you've got the 4 sets with the was not the barn, not the barracks, the one where you can turn into scraps, and what do you call it? The bunker, the one where you can turn into scraps to the bunker, and then you get like the Shadow Moon set or like the Blackrock set or something like that. If they were to, like, let's say, just an example, if they were to move those sets to where you made the Shadow Moon set with tailoring, you made the cloth and the mail and the leather set with leather working, and you made the plate set with blacksmithing. That's kind of what they're probably going to do with the professions if they do make transmog only gear, I guess like achievable or creatable with professions. So anyway, guys, that's what I thought was important with this interview. I do really, really appreciate Paul coming on and really helping us and just kind of telling us what's going on and being direct and upfront and just telling us, like, it's like one thing I hate is whenever you ask somebody a question and they answer something else, and like he didn't do that. So that was amazing. I was like, yo, what is it? What is this? And so I'm glad. I'm really glad. And so, I mean, like the PvP one next week, I'll be amazed if that happens. But, you know, cross your fingers. So anyway, guys, that's what I thought was important. A lot of good news. I'm really looking forward to Professions in Legion. And I think after this Q&A session, a lot of other people are too. I'm also looking forward to, I'm probably going to get on beta next few days and do some videos for you guys and just kind of test this stuff out myself. But anyway, that's pretty much all I got for now. So again, the full video is in the description. And go ahead and let me know if I forgot anything that you think is important. Go ahead and put it in the comments so other people can see it. Or if you have anything else to add, something I forgot, something you think I should have said, something you disagree with me with, something you agree with me with, of course, I always want to know. So that's pretty much all I've got. Thank you for watching, and like, comment, subscribe.